Would you prefer your liner to look like one of those? Hi everyone, my name is Nini, and in this video I can teach you how to make your liner look really smooth and really clean as well, with some time-saving tips. So a little introduction here. I'm going to use a program Clip Studio Paint, and the brush I use is Mapping Pen, which is a default pen in Clip Studio. But if you're using any other software like Ibis Paint or Procreate, don't worry about that, because this tutorial works for most of the softwares. Now let's start. Here I have my sketch from my webtoon. The link is in the description, so if you want to check it out, go ahead. And the first thing I recommend is to change the sketch color and lower the opacity. In Clip Studio we have this feature right here which can immediately change the color of the sketch, and this can help a lot because it will be a lot easier for you to tell apart the sketch from the line art. And now it's time to move on to our main points and main topics, because they're the ones that are going to help us to improve our line art, and let's discuss all of them. So the first topic that we're going to discuss is stabilization. Stabilization is the first thing which comes up in my mind when somebody mentions stable lines, because it is an important setting which makes your lines look more stable and less shaky. You can just play around with it and set whatever number you like, but I usually set it around 45. Try to avoid setting it too high because it might slow you down. And the next topic is the size of the line. There might be some beginners wondering how thick or how thin their line should be, but there is no exact answer to that question. It mostly depends on the art style, but the line should be neither too thick or too thin. And I also have a time-saving tip for this topic. In Clip Studio Paint we have this feature which can help you to change the size of the line according to your liking. If you feel like your lines are too thick, there is a feature right here which can lower down the size and make it more thinner. There's also a feature which can make the lines more narrower and the endings of the line more narrow in general, and there is also the one which can make the lines more thicker. I don't know if you can find this feature in other softwares as well, but it is really helpful because with one swipe you can just adjust the size of the line without redrawing the whole thing. And the next topic that we're going to discuss is really important, and it's called hand movements. The way your hand moves is the most important part for your line art. Many beginners make this type of mistakes when they follow the sketch really slowly, and the line ends up being unstable. Even if you have the stabilization set, it still looks kind of unstable. And the solution for this problem is that you have to move your hand faster whenever you're drawing a line, because it will make a line more straight and smooth as well. Also, there is another hand movement problem that the beginners have, which is drawing some small lines and connecting them with each other, and those type of line arts usually end up looking kind of fuzzy and they don't look that clean. But instead of a bunch of small lines, you have to use one line for one segment and connect those lines with each other without adding some frizziness, and the line art is gonna end up looking really smooth and clean. And the next thing that we're going to discuss is vector layers. Some people may wonder, what is the difference between vector layer and the normal layer that we use in coloring and sketching? And we will discuss every single difference and the benefits that vector layer has, and they're gonna be really useful for us, especially in time saving. So the first thing, and one of the most important things, is that you can resize the vector lines, and you can just select them and move them around, resize them, and do whatever you want with them without ruining its quality. If your line is too short and you cannot connect it with another line, you can just select it and move it around like this. You can also change the size of the line from the settings like this. And if you accidentally drew some extra lines that you don't need, you can just go to the eraser section and find the vector eraser and then with one swipe you can just delete all those extra lines without worrying about your time, and it's going to be really fast and it's such a smooth process. So everything that we discussed is only available when you're using vector layers, and that is the reason why I think that it's better than the normal layer that we use in coloring and sketching, and that's why I recommend using vector layers whenever you're drawing a line art. And the next topic that we're going to discuss is really important in my art style, and whenever I draw a line art I usually give it more time and focus, and it's line weight. Have you noticed that in some art styles, lines around some places looks kind of thick and around the other places it looks kind of thin? And the reason behind it is that the line weight can define many things, such as the thickness of the material, the appearance of the shadows, and the depth of field. The line weight is controlled by pen pressure. If you press your pen more harder, you get thicker lines, and if you press your pen more lighter, you get thinner lines. If you want to portray the thickness of the material in your drawings, I recommend using thinner lines with thinner materials and thicker lines with thicker materials, especially with clothing, because if your character is wearing a denim jacket or leather jacket, it's better to draw it with thicker lines. And as you can see, I always draw the hair of this character with thinner lines because he has thin hair and I like to portray it that way. Also, as I mentioned before, with line weight you can also portray the appearance of the shadows. You can add more lines around the places where you think the shadow will be the darkest. For example, under the character's neck or under the clothing and so on. You can also add more ink around the places where the lines are connecting with each other, and your line art is going to look more eye-catching. And with the depth of field, you can portray the distance between the nearest and the furthest object in a drawing. You can do that with line weight and make the lines of the object which is closer to the camera more thick. And for the object which is further, you should make the lines look more thinner so the person who's seeing the drawing can tell if the object is closer or further. Just by using all of those line weight tips can make your line art look more interesting, more eye-catching, and more enhanced. And now it's time to move on to the next topic, which is called the extra details. Some people might not like how their line art looks kind of plain, and even though it's part of many art styles and people like to keep their line art simple, some people want to add more details, but some of them don't know what to add exactly. And I'm going to give you some advices if you want to add more details to your line art and you don't know how. So the first thing is adding some extra lines like those around the places where you want to add some shading. Also, you can fill the dark places with fully blank ink, like it is in mangas. And don't forget to add some small details like the hair strings, which can define the hair flow, and the clothing folds, which can make the line art look more detailed. And now it's time to move on to the next topic, which is the most important, and it's called practice. Every skill that human has is mostly maintained by muscle memory, and the way you can train your muscle memory is with practicing every single day. And whenever you're practicing, I recommend checking out the work of the other artists and get some inspiration from them. I also plan to post the speed paint of this drawing, and you can watch it and learn how to do the line art that way as well. But the practice is the main key, and you can practice every single day and try different techniques and tricks, and I promise that you will get better. So that was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I also plan to post some more tutorials in the future, like coloring tutorials, and let me know in the comments what would you like to learn from me next. And thank you, bye!